Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa. Today I'm going to show you how you at home can paint this gorgeous scene of a lavender collie. I think that's the correct color of this collie, of a lavender collie having a little nose moment, a little boot moment with a sunflower. To help me bring this lovely lesson to you is my husband, John.
Hello.
This lesson is part of a series where we're going to be examining painting dogs this year for the big art quest. So you will regularly see lessons about different breeds of dogs, different kinds of hair, all the different things. We have a group about that. I'm definitely taking your suggestions and ideas around dogs so that you guys can paint your own pets at home. That's like really the goal. It was a journey getting here. So we had some technical challenges. We had recorded the video and then things happened and it was no good to us. And so now we're here.
That happens. Sometimes I don't always push all the right buttons, and sometimes recordings don't go exactly as planned.
Sometimes equipment breaks. There's just weird little moments that happen. But since we can go live, what we're going to do is I'm going to go live from the table and just repaint it, which is totally fine. Sometimes I have to repaint things. Sometimes you might have to repaint things. It's okay. Things happen. Things happen to our artwork. Things happen in our life. It's no big deal. You just read the you know, not to be a little matrix on you, but the painting is in you. The painting is in you. It's physical manifestation, notwithstanding. The traceable's on the website. If you check the description below and you go to theartsherpa.com, you can see that there's a traceable for this on the website. I am going to be painting on a 9x12 today. You still have access to the other stuff. I am really actually excited to do this one because I think it's such a pretty painting. It was a lot of fun to paint the first time. So I assume it's going to be fun to paint this time, too.
I think so, too.
To begin that, though, Don.
What's that?
We got to go over the material.
Do you? You have to cover materials?
Yes. I have a 9x12 surface here on my table. I picked that just because it was the biggest surface on the table I could fit and still effectively paint it. I have a phthalo blue bit of paint out and ultramarine blue and titanium white. That is not all the colors I'm going to be using in this lesson. After the lesson, check the description below, and I will update it with the colors, tools, and also timestamps so that the chapters we're going to bookmark in will match the timestamps, and eventually the mini book that we're going to write for this lesson will also match that.
That all sounds like you have a plan, man.
We have a plan. So you know what this is?
I do not know.
This is step 1, and I see Nikki P there, and I see Linda Sue and Jasmine Callie. And Jasmine says she'd love to paint her doggo. He's all white pit with 2 light brown patches on his eyes. Well, it sounds like a cutie patootie, and your doggo does sound genuinely adorable. I'm so enjoying this quest. Are you ready to say step 1? Step 1. And then here we go, step 1. So we're going to take a light mix of these two and paint the entire canvas. The bottom third of the canvas will be a little bit darker, and it will become much lighter as we go up. To make things easy for myself, I think I'm going to use an oval mop. Now, this is certainly by no means, let me get a more tightly seated oval mop. Ferrules get loose. Some companies have more trouble with this than others. Your new brush should never have a loose ferrule. That's a return. But sometimes over time, as you use a brush, the ferrules will get loose. You can glue those back down. I need to glue that one. This one's still fairly well seated. This is an oval mop, 1 inch. And it has a fancy name, Ultimate Varnish Brush. But depending on, you might not have this brush where you live. It's an oval mop, 1 inch. That's what you're looking for. Synthetic. So no animal hair was used in this brush. I'm going to load it up fairly well, light water, fairly well loaded up with some white paint on both sides. You can see I'm loading through the filaments, and I'm going to grab a mix of blue and ultramarine. Look at that go. And we're going to start to paint our surface blue. Now, I want it to be lighter up top without paint boogers. I had a paint booger get on my palette that I have not been able to get rid of. Have you guys ever had a paint booger? Paint boogers are the weird crispy bits of paint that sometimes are inside your cap that you get rid of, and then they chase you around the studio for a day. If you didn't know that was a thing, now you'll know you're being haunted by a paint booger. Goes to paint used last. But definitely it's a thing that happens. You're not imagining it. You are being stalked by a globby old piece of paint. And come down here, and you can see it's quite light, and that's going to help us get some nice contrast. with the COLLIE and the background. I chose not to do a slightly white-yellow background because I didn't love it. And that's the thing to think about when you're using a reference photo. If you don't like something about the reference photo because it's not pretty, change it. If it's a gorgeous photo but there's a trash can in it, just don't paint the trash can. I know that that's something you would think that you would just know, but sometimes when you're new to painting, you don't know that you can just edit out the trash can. You don't have to paint everything in on the photo. So if you've had a photo, you're like, man, this would be a great painting, but for that darn trash can, now you know. The trash can is up to you. It's your reality. I'm making a darker blue, and I'm going to come from the bottom. I like mixing ultramarine and phthalo blue because they give me a nice mid-range blue. You can see we're just coming down here and kind of making a darker field down at the bottom.
Huh.
So similar to what we had in our reference photo in value, but different in hue.
I have to say, there's a lot of folks over on Facebook that are very excited to paint this today.
Do we have a lot of happy Facebook painters? Did we remember to text this?
We don't have texts. Gnomes are out.
Oh, no.
The gnomes have gone out. They'll be back in a few days.
Lindsay Herbert is going to Broussard to set up a booth at a market. And she has to have a business name, so she's working on that. Good luck at your market, Lindsay. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really all we need to do for step one. A nice blue background that goes from a light value to a dark value. You can use this background in other paintings too. When you're doing a pet painting or painting about a particular subject, a person or whatever, it's okay. This is fun. It is completely okay to try to make that subject the focus, and one thing that you can do to do that, yeah. It doesn't have to be. Okay. You just came and got it, so I didn't know. We're having a bit of a day, aren't we? It's live. I was going to dry it, but then didn't dry it. Arena, how are you doing? And hi, Peggy Fike. I see you at Amethyst Rock. It's good to see you in the house. I'm so glad we have so many dog lovers in the building today. I've got so many cute dogs planned. I got smudgy face dogs planned. I got chefy face chef dogs planned. Dogs in fields of flowers, dogs at the beach, wet dogs, swimmy dogs, all kinds of dogs. And hopefully by the end of the series, what you'll have is so many dogs that you'll be like, I can totally paint my dog. And then the cat people are going to be like, what about cats? Where's the cats? I don't know. You have cats? Yes, we're going to have cats. Just not at the same time as the quest, but definitely cats will happen. We just did a cat over in the patronage in a studio. We will do cats, and we'll probably have a day we call Catter Day or something down the road, and we'll paint a bunch of cats to make up for it. But right now we're focusing on the pooches, the doggos, the floofers, the woofers, the little dudes that are there. You know, I have Twix in my studio, and she is a cavapoo. We got her like 3-4 years ago. I have to look at it. I'm not good at doggy birthdays. I'm not. My mother-in-law is really good at doggy birthdays. I'm more good at doggy treats and doggy day in and day out. Oh, this is nice and dry. He did a beautiful job of drying it, and he even left it cool to the touch.
Do you know what it is now?
Step 2.
I think so, but I have to go over and make sure that we are. Are we on step 2? We are. Look at this. See, I push a button.
Oh,
step 2.
Cherothy Hager says, I'm gonna love this. I have a border collie named Molly. I'm so excited. This is a good painting for that, isn't it? I mean, we love what we love, right? We love what we love. Okay, now today I will demo the traceable. So we've been doing a lot of drawing. We've been doing a lot of that lately, but let's get back to some basic stuff. Traceable. The first thing that I'm going to use on my traceable is a product called Saral paper. S-A-R-A-L. It is made for artwork. It comes in a bunch of colors. I tend to keep yellow and white in the house. You can reuse it multitudes of times. So when you're looking at the cost of it, factor in that one sheet can be used many, many, many times over. It is water soluble. The things you have to know about Saral paper that are not on the website when it comes to acrylic is that if the paint is hot, the cereal paper can, its pigment can kind of get mushed in to the paint, and that can be a little harder to remove. So you want the paint to be dry and cool when you use it. And that's the big thing that I haven't seen on their website that they're going to let you know about. Now, on the placement of this, my traceable is just a little bit smaller than my 9x12, but I thought a 9x12 was such a nice size. So what I'm going to show you is how there's just a little bit of, tiny bit of petal that isn't over here, and there's a little bit of dog to add over here. Those are very easy to add things, right? So by coming to the edge, and the other area that you can resize easily on this painting, I'm going to bring this down a bit, is at the top because it's just blue sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easy places to resize or reshape the painting. If you want to paint this bigger, like on the original 16x20, but you want to use the traceable, be sure that you use the poster tool in your printer. And I don't know where everybody's poster tool is. You'll have to like Google your printer's user manual online and look it up because I don't know it. Linus Tech Channel might know it. I don't know. I don't know it. I wish I did. I would tell you. I wouldn't know it and not tell you. Here's what I'll tell you. If I know it, I'll tell you, but I probably don't know it.
You know what you aren't good at keeping? Secrets.
No, I'm not. When you have the traceable placed in
down, like, do you know what I just heard?
Keep teaching.
You like to spill the tea.
I do like to spill some tea. I also like to watch tea be spilled.
Yes, you do.
Oh my gosh, it's not a good side of my character.
Slow motion tea spilling is the best.
Oh my gosh.
If you can...
I mean, if you're gonna be crazy in public, I'm gonna watch. I'm a people watcher. I got it from my dad. I come by it legitimately. He's a people watcher, and sometimes people just decide to be dinner and a show. Cannot help it. It is not my fault. I did not make these choices that led us to this moment. I'm going to give myself just a little awareness that I'm going to have a little bit of the blushing of this really fun color back here. This is you just go over the lines that I gave you. You can use as many or as few lines as you want on the traceable. This is for your convenience to help you. You can also absolutely just freehand the dog. That's completely fine. Mm-hmm. You can use the grid method. And remember, you can grid things using the Grid Tutor, which is a free service. Kind of weird. It doesn't work for everything, but you know, for a free ham-fisted workaround, it'll do. Sometimes a free ham-fisted is worth it, right?
It's very true. That cereal paper stuff, you can use it more than once?
Many times. Many times. And that's you've got to factor that into the cost of something. Can I use this once? How long will it be a tool? Like you can buy a really expensive T-square and it's okay because an expensive T-square will last the rest of your life. And you will give it to your children. Or they will sell it in an estate sale, but it will still be on the planet. Right? But it's going to, that you can invest actually some serious money in because you will do that. An easel is a place that you can invest serious money in. An easel does not wear out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But paint wears out. You use up your paint. So, you know, you might want to think about the cost of paint when you're factoring certain things in. How much does my paint cost? Brushes wear out.
They do.
Yeah, they really do. So you're going to want to factor in the cost of brushes. Let's see how we're doing on the transfer. Sometimes it's a little hard to see the yellow over the blue, and that will be what you are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I may even tape up here so I can really press down harder. You'll be fighting your ability to see it. A lot of people switch to the red or blue for that, but I have to tell you the red or blue are harder to remove.
Yeah.
So you always have to make this decision. It's going to be harder to see the yellow or the white, but it's easier to remove the yellow and the white. Look, that's all I had to do to fix the traceable for the 9x12.
Wow.
Just finish one little petal. You can just finish one little petal here. These are little stamens. They're green anyways. You're going to just free paint them in. So sometimes things that seem like a big deal are not a big deal. When you're new to painting, you don't know what is a big deal. It's hard to like narrow that down, isn't it? Like, is this a thing like I've got to be real worried about? Or is this a thing that's like, some things are just And some things you're like, oh no, you got to really focus on that. Like taping down the traceable. That's a thing you have to do or it's going to move all around on you. And you can't make adjustments. Being perfect with the lines on the traceable is sort of a, You can. If you want. Not required. No one's going to check your work. I had the weirdest dream last night, John. I dreamed about consulting, again, on college admissions. Like looking at portfolios and reviewing them for people's college admissions. I'm like, how am I back here? What a weirdest dream.
Strange dreams.
It was so strange, and it was like so long and involved. Like I was like, I really did a whole thing. I was like, did my brain just really need to take that walk for some reason?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh. So. All right, so you can see these lines are very light. Very light. Here's the back of this. You can see that the transfer is made there. It's almost easier to see the transfer in some ways on the back of the serial paper, but there's a lot of carbon left. So you just turn it around. You just don't orient it the same way every time. And you'll know when it's not working for you anymore because you won't have any lines left to see. But this is what I find. This is all I've really got to see to be able to do this. And that's the thing, is you just want enough information to be able to see what you're going. Since the next part is blocking in, and this is what people never get, because they'll be like, did you freehand it or did you trace that? Did you freehand it or did you trace it? And you're like, well, I traced it. And they're like, that's cheating. First of all, what does that even mean? I don't know what that even means.
I gotta take a photo of that before you go
do.
too far.
Second, since I'm monologuing like a villain. Second of all, since you have to block it in, you have to be able to paint it anyways. It doesn't matter whether you carefully and preciously and judiciously draw it on or you trace it on. At the point paint has been put in the blocking method, you're there anyways. You're just there. And you can even ask my mom, and she's super picky about everything. And even she'll be like, yeah, that's totally fine. And that's why many artists like, yeah, tracing, projection, none of that's cheating. It is just a method to get an idea from one place to another place. That's all it is. And I hope you like my voice of art critic. Do you like my art critic? My art critic sounds like this. Oh my God, why are you painting that? I don't understand.
Your art critic voice.
Unsub, I understand if you unsub.
You know what it is?
I'm going to put out some brown.
It's step 3.
Using a lot. Yes, put out some brown.
In the Big Art Quest COLLIE edition.
In the Art Quest COLLIE edition, it is step 3. I'm going to also put out some dioxazine purple when I can find it. And I want it near the brown because I'll be doing that mix a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's here because it was here yesterday, and yet I do not see it now.
How now, brown paint?
Okay, there it is. So I am a little tired, obviously. And I can't
That's not brown, that's purple.
No, I said dioxazine.
Oh.
I already put out the brown, and then there's dioxazine.
Well, you confused me with your words.
I often confuse you with my words. That is what I do. Confuse you with my words. Okay, let's put some yellow over here since we know we're going to need some of that. I'll put some yellow over by my phthalo blue. I'll give you the exact colors when we put them out.
Okay.
And we may put a few more out, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. We'll see. I'm going to put out some phthalo green, and I may put some phthalo brown by it just so it's easy to get there to mix. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because sometimes, like, I don't want to go from here to here. I'm just lazy. So I'll just put that there. Because we know we're going to do a phthalo green bird sienna mix. For sure. We've got white in the center, and we could use some more white. And we definitely could use some black and some magenta. And then we'll go over the colors very carefully so you know exactly what we're doing and why. I'll put some magenta up here because that works really well with the ultramarine and the purple for getting that really strange coat color. You know, as you do. I may put out Tighten It Yellow at the end for some of the highlights on the coat. We will see how that goes, but I don't know when I'll get to it, so I don't want to use it early. Ooh, I just popped a fresh bag.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's always fun.
Oh, it is. All right, I'm going to mist everything. Get my new cute mister. He's got a little deer in there. So I saw these on Amazon, and I was like, wanted to get like all of them and all the animals, but then I thought, what are the chances this thing even works because it's so cute?
In mists.
So this is even better than the avian micro mister that I have. I like it very much. All
It has a little face in it.
Paint, what did we put out? Mars Black, Titanium White, Cad Red Medium, Cad Yellow, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Quinacridone Magenta, Burnt Sienna, Dox Purple, Phthalo Green, and again, Burnt Sienna, because we're going to be doing a lot of mix here, and we're going to be doing a lot of mix here in the fur. That's why we put out what we did.
Now, quick question. Can I use acrylic on watercolor paper?
Yes, it's just thirsty. So what you'll find in watercolor paper is you can do washes and everything really easily. It works great, but it's thirsty. And so as you're building up layers, you may find it's harder to do certain blends. It's easier to do washes. It can be for a minute harder to do certain blends until the paper seals. And you can't lift it back out of the paper. But it's perfect. A watercolor block is an excellent surface to paint on.
Excellent.
Excellent surface to paint on.
We like the block. You speak highly of the blocks.
I speak highly of the block. I'm going to get a Bright. This is a number 6 Textura Bright. This is not, the numbers of the brushes only relate to the brand. So when you're observing a lesson, try to look at relationships of sizes to things. Like this is about this big in relationship to my fingers, because a number 6 in a different brand is a whole different size. Even in some brush company lines. We're going to just block in a little bit here. I'm going to take some of my brown and some of my black, and I'm going to mix those together. Paint in the inside of my sunflower. Nice dark color. Not too troubling. I might add some green to that mix. I'm going to come here, start the stem to the leaf. We're blocking in. I'm just stroking down on the edge of the brush, and I'm pulling it down. Another place that it might be nice to have this dark color is in the leaf that's coming up from the screen. On the underside of that fold where the leaf is folded over, so this can be dark green. Might as well use the dark color, right? It may take a couple coats with any color where it's phthalo green or phthalo blue. The phthaloethicene colors do tend to be glazes or transparent. You can see that information on the tube. It will tell you how opaque the paint is. So before you think it's you, check your tube of paint, and if it's like at a low opacity, you'll be like, oh, it's not me. It's a glaze, okay? Because you don't know things. You don't know that paint comes in different opacity. If you're making paint with this over on the watercolor channel, you're going to be learning a lot about that, about the natural transparency of pigment and how we might choose to alter that when we're making it, when the paint makers are making it. So let's make sure that we've got some little stamens happening here. Like that one. Making sure that I have these going on around. You can come back with a round brush, but we're just getting this in. Just a nice dark green. And let's block in maybe a slightly lighter green, right, for the top of the leaf. And you can add a little of your yellow. So you take the burnt sienna and the phthalo green and just a little bit of yellow, and this will be a slightly lighter value, still dark. A lot of times in acrylic, you paint darkest to lightest.
Hmm.
And it's through the highlights and the values that you start to really see the painting happen. And then coming forward here, I'll come on this side of the leaf. And just paint that with more pure phthalo green. And that will give me the zones of the leaf. So when I come back to paint that big structure, I can see where everything is. So this is what I mean. It doesn't really matter what you've got going on with the traceable, because once you've done this blocking in, you still have to paint the painting. That's why it wasn't cheating for Thomas Kincaid or Boris Vallejo or Michelangelo to use these methods, and it's why they developed them. Because you can't just go around wasting canvas working it out. We can. But it used to be that you couldn't because it was really hard to get canvas. All right. That's zones of some leaf.
Those do seem to be zoned.
Now let's zone in some flowers. And I'm going to definitely, I'm going to grab some of my Cad Red and, interestingly enough, a little bit of my dioxazine purple. This is my Cad Red medium. Now you guys now see this mix in a whole different way, don't you? Like, oh, I know a thing now I didn't know before.
I have seen something. Oh. There we go. That's got a good look.
I'm just going to make sure that the base of the flower has a nice dark value. We'll have to pull individual flowers out, but we're just kind of making sure that there's beautiful depth. Depth. Back side of this flower has some depth. It has depth, baby.
I can...
And the petal has some depth.
I feel it.
Do you feel its depth?
Yes.
The little sort of forward-facing leaf has some depth. I'll even paint it out because I know I'm going to tip it, but we might as well give it some depth.
I like that. I love, actually, these purples.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
They're fun, aren't they?
I find them supremely satisfying.
It's a satisfying painting to do, guys. This is a satisfying painting to do. You can do this. You can paint a beautiful scene with a dog. They're great subjects. You know, we can just have the things on our walls in our home that make our life feel better.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I love having your paintings on the wall everywhere.
Do you?
Yep.
I appreciate that. So that's kind of crazy, messy looking. We're going to go ahead and get a little yellow and red together and make kind of an orange. Let's paint in the leaves the rest of the way. Again, I'm just using a bright here. I could use a round. I could use a filbert. It really isn't that super important. It's important that I begin to block in the placement of objects in the painting. I do try to pay attention to the directionality of my brush stroke when I do flowers, just because with flowers, you want to do brush strokes in the direction that they grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just helpful. You don't have to. I've seen people break that guideline. You can break almost any guideline except the don't burn paint, don't eat paint rules.
Those are pretty important ones.
Those are very important ones. Yes, there's a couple master artists that burn paint. Don't be them. Very hard to do safely. You should not be superheating your paint for any reason. So I've got some forward-facing petals kind of loosely painted in. I've got some depth, the center of a flower. Let's call that a step because that was a lot to take in, guys.
That's pretty good.
Right? That's a lot to take in for blocking in. And again, this is that first stage. This is that, how do I lay objects out? How do I lay placement in? Next, when we come back, we will work on the dog. All right. Let me take some questions. Inova says she's congratulating Lula for a great way of going. And Joanne Weber is saying, good morning to us and all the wonderful mods. Good morning to you guys. Lula says, Studio Ghibli, my native Totoro. I have the full Totoro collection. I'm telling you what, if you guys are into Totoro, you've got to check Torrid and you've got to check Hot Topic. They have some beautiful clothing based on all the Studio Ghibli stuff that I'm really into. Mary Meyer says that she brought a set of brushes last month but hasn't used them. Keep using Cinnamon's brushes. Well, thank you very much. I super appreciate that. I appreciate your brush patronage very, very much. And I appreciate your guys' patronage being here today, watching my channel, doing stuff with me. I appreciate it. I know you guys have choices.
Do you know what it is?
I appreciate you choosing me. Does that sound like an airline?
You're really... Well, I'd like to...
But I do, and it is. Can I get you to heat my coffee? Is that possible? I'm not hair drying.
Yes, you can totally... I'll totally heat your coffee.
Well, I'm not hair drying. Let me turn the hair dryer on.
Do you need the hair dryer?
No.
Oh. Okay.
If I turn the hair dryer on and we heat coffee, the power goes out and you lose your show.
It's true. Look.
Thank you very much for being understanding about today's show having to be at the table. It is a really interesting experience to be finished painting a painting and not be able to use the video attached to it. However, again, I think like when a painting of mine gets destroyed or somebody loses a painting, it's gotten lost in the mail and I have to repaint a painting. I think the reason I can stay resilient to that, where I'm so not resilient to so many other life things, but I can stay resilient to that, is that I know I can just paint it again. The act of painting it again, and you will feel that way sometime, where you'll be like, just paint it again.
Yep.
You won't tell people that because they'll be not careful with your work, but you can just paint it again. If there's a flood, you can just paint it again.
Do you know...
It's always an interesting, different journey, but you can. Take a deep breath. I think I will switch to a cat's tongue for this next bit on the dog, just to paint up large amounts, and where I want to do a round.
But wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more?
You forgot to go...
Step. Let's block in the dog. All right, so the first thing I'm going to block in on the dog, actually I'm going to use my number 4 first, is I'm going to block in the eye and the nose because those are much more difficult to block in. And I may block in some of the muzzle structure lines. Why do I do this? Because as you're painting, these are the things you don't want to lose completely. So I'm going to just take purple and make sure I come along here and give myself a guide to that part of the muzzle. And that there, because that's going to help me, have a better time painting him.
Mm-hmm. You're just kind of drawing it in with paint?
Yeah, just a little bit so that when I come back, there are things that I have not lost. Like the flip of that ear. In my enthusiasm,
yep,
I do want to keep the flip of that ear. Some idea where I know I'm going to have the white stripe here, and plans around the marking. Just to give myself some forgiveness. And you can see it's glazy enough where it's not really causing me any trouble.
He blocks in pretty quick.
Yeah, he's going to come in real quick. And these little guidelines will help me keep the major structure that I've got to keep track of well worked out. And that can be kind of hard to do. But once I know where all this stuff is, he's just a lot easier to see, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So then I can come back with my white. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to take, I keep dropping my towels on the floor.
I can get Jim for you.
I have slopey legs. So I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and my ultramarine, and it kind of makes a lavender. It's different than the dot a bit, and I'm going to get my white into it so that there's a bit of a lavender cast to this. And I'm going to paint in the areas just loosely that I know is going to be white fur with this lavender. Thank you so much. My slopey legs aside. How are you guys today? Are you okay today? Oh, so I'm using purple because this is a lavender collie, and there is a perception of a lavender value to the undercoat. And so this is a great way to make sure that it's there and it has that feeling. And since we need a darker value under things, you can really get it beautifully this way. And if I want to have that under the chin be a little bit darker, then I can add a little more ultramarine blue, and it's cooler. Right? So that's a great way that I can start to put in those markings. And you notice how, like, we're blocking in, we blocked in these dark colors in the sunflower. Sunflower is much brighter than that, right? But we blocked in with dark colors, and then we're going to add highlights and values and hues, right, that help us really kind of see that better. There we go. It's fun to do.
That's really cool.
Now, the dark fur color is going to be burnt sienna and dot purple. And you're like, I don't want a purple dog. He's not going to be a purple dog. It's going to be what you see in the picture. But this is how we get there. It's going to be fun too. The big thing here is that you want value dark enough that when you come paint the fur in, there's shadow. Dog's purple, honestly, unless you lighten it or put it next to something that reveals its true color, sometimes even reads as a black to the eye. It's kind of the secret black on your palette that you didn't know you had.
I'm going to pull up the reference photo for folks here.
Yeah,
to see.
pull up the reference. There we go. See, that's where we're going. That is where we're going. Is there like a postage stamp version of that we can put up in the corner? I don't know.
Yeah, I can make it just a little smaller.
Yeah, like just, and then they can have that kind of look at.
What I'll do is I'll put it maybe right.
You guys let us know if this works.
I'll find a position to kind of go. I think you can kind of hang it up here.
Perfect. There you guys go. That's
it may
where
come
we're
and
going.
go, but it'll be round.
I am getting a lot of purple in my arm.
Purple. We were talking about that the other day. It's like purple gets on everything.
Rubbing alcohol wipes, not just for viruses. Actually, it was so funny. I felt really bad at the beginning of the pandemic because we had so many rubbing alcohol wipes, so much 91% alcohol, so much acetone, so many paper towels, so many masks. But those were all things that you just keep in an art studio for art studio problems. Like, you have to have serious masks for certain varnishes and certain products that have a lot of off-gassing. If you do any car painting, any of that. So we had all these weird things that were like strangely ready. So your art studio actually could be useful in other ways than you think, is what I learned. Now, under here, I do want it to be slightly darker under the ear, and I'm going to just go ahead and remind myself of that with a pure purple. Right? It's going to be a little darker under here. And then I'll do more of the brown purple. You stop being on my arm. right here. This is the stage of painting that makes everybody feel like they can't paint. And it's because it's called an underpainting.
And it's pretty important.
It's super important to the outcome of your painting, and it always feels like a huge mistake to everybody. I've added a little white just so I can see the turn of the ear. See, it just gives me just a little bit of information about the turn of the ear. And I can even still use it for the rest of the face because there's a lot of, this is not quite as dark as the rest. And much like the strawberry painted without red, he will be a brown dog. Color, it tricks the eye. By the way, you're hallucinating purple anyway. You're completely delusional if you think you see purple.
What do you mean?
I mean, you can't see it. Your brain makes that color up. It doesn't see it. You are having an active delusion every time you see purple. You don't have the cones for it. They don't make that color. Your brain guesses it. It's a guess, which makes me think that we all don't see the same purple. If we're just guessing. If our brain's just going, I think it's this color. Probably. Can't see it, but it feels like it's, so I'm going to fill it in because we know there's a thing happening here. Right? Cones are all being canceled out, but I think something, we're going to make a whole video about this, but you are delusional if you see purple.
That's sort of true.
You know, when you realize how many things in art your brain is hallucinating, and believe it or not, there's a lot of things in art your brain is hallucinating. It makes you question all that stuff you think you're locked in about in the rest of your life. Things you think you know. That you couldn't possibly actually know because you're having a hallucination all the time. All right. I'm going to also hit a little bit of the... Look at that. We have a blocked-in dog.
The dog is there.
Now I'm going to dry this.
Tell you what, why don't you do this?
Carol Moore says it's hot today and the paint is drying faster. Carol, if you don't have a wet palette, some other things you might want to consider about are these micro misters for your paint. But consider putting a small humidifier. I have this one. Oh, you're going to dry it for me? Okay. I have this small one, and it just plugs in, and it raises the humidity around my paint enough to keep it from skinning so fast. Because sometimes your paint skins so fast, you almost can't paint with it. And by the way, if you've ever felt like some brands dried out faster than others, it's not just you, they do. In watercolor paint, if you made watercolor paint with us over on the Watercolor channel, very simple ingredients, right? You've got a gum arabic binder, you've got some honey or glycerin for flexibility, you know, pigment, very simple stuff. It is very universal as long, you know, depending on quality pigment, stuff like that, on the pigment loads as it goes places. An acrylic, the polymers and the binder that's in the pigment is not universal. Every company is completely different. They have their own formulations. They're very secretive about it. So some of them are dry out faster. Some of them have a longer open time. Some of them have less drag on the brush. Some of them shrink down when they dry. Some of them full body when they dry. It is not universal, and it's high chemistry. And you're not wrong when you feel that way.
Now I think.
Paint the eye.
Before you do that,
I'm gonna sip some more coffee.
Step 5.
Step 5. We're gonna give him an eye because that's the fun part to paint, right?
It is one of the fun parts.
Nose and an eye in this step. I like sometimes to do the nose and the eye early in the step because, like with the Labrador, you know, you're in there and you're like, there's a lot of black fur, and you could just get really worn out on the black fur, but somehow the eye or the flower can give you the energy to keep going and find your way through. Question, do you find that heavy body acrylics work better on stretch canvas or in canvas panels? Thank you. Stretch canvas. Canvas panels can be thirsty. So what I mean by that is that depending, I mean, even ampersand, which is like the finest of the finest of the fine, right? They have a substrate that pulls in water, and so there is a little bit of weird give. A canvas can be, you know, you can have thread counts, you can finish it with a gesso, you have so much control. So I like canvas. But some people swear by boards because they're better for portraits and they have a smoother surface. And that smooth surface, that predictable surface allows them to do fine portraiture. So I bet that's really about the type of artwork you do and the temperament you have as an artist. I also like the spring back. When canvas springs back, it gives you a little energy back into your arm, into your hand, and I think that boards are a little tiring. I do, though.
So Don asks, do you find that heavy body acrylic paints work better on stretched canvas or canvas panels?
I just answered that.
Oh,
just now. I read her question and answered it.
I was totally checking all the other stuff, and I was like, do I have everything covered? And I was like, all right, did we ask this question?
We did.
Okay, good.
Just now. Good job, though.
Good. I'm going to take
some green and brown and mix them together.
Did I mention there's a lot of buttons back here that I have to check on?
You did mention that there is a lot of buttons, and I'm going to come around and add in the eye, there's this sort of dark outer ring.
Okay, it's funny because I just go checking all the things and I have a little routine. It's like, okay, did we get all the questions?
It happens a lot. A lot of times I will say something, you come in and you're like, what color paint are you using? It's good times. So a little bit of that dark ring on the outside there. Not too bad. Not too stressful. I'm going to get a little brown and blue together. It kind of makes that gray. So the white of the eye, I'm not going to start out as completely white. I might add some completely white stuff to it, but I'm going to begin it there. I'm going to take my yellow and red and make kind of an orange and come over to my green. And while that's having a dry or a think about what it's done, I'm going to come up to the nose. Now on the nose color, I add a little bit of magenta to the purple brown mix. Put acridone magenta to the purple brown mix. And come here, top of the nose. Start to really work that in. Come down here. And you can always get a little of the ultramarine blue into it to darken it. Rub back with my finger. It's kind of like a finger blend. And I can use a blending brush if I need to. I just want to soften that a bit. The beginnings.
It is. It's coming
There's
together.
A little black going. A little bit on the front there. Just to make sure that we've got that soft mouth on a dog. And it was funny. We did notice this, and I'm correcting for it now because we had problems the first time. I aged up my dog by making the muzzle too long.
Oh, yeah. That was really interesting.
So with children and with puppies, it's when you elongate the features that you age the animal up. So if you're trying to paint a child, you want to have the features much more close together. The nose is much shorter. The eyes are much bigger. And everything is sort of pulled in. Same with puppies. Puppies and kids. Puppies and kids. Okay, the eye's dry enough to listen to me. I'm going to come in here and start to paint the little iris that we see. Get into my brown and purple and black, and I'm going to come underneath. A little bit inset there. See that? I'm painting that inset. If I want this right here, I'm going to pull that out. You can get some white into it too. Into the color. Kind of nice. My brush is a little sloppy.
When you're ready for some more questions, I think you've got some.
I could answer questions right now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to take a little of that light color down to the nose a bit.
Well, Lily
On the
was
top.
curious. Do you ever feel discouraged? Because I'm there now.
Yeah, Lily, I do. Even now, right now. I should probably make this a whole video, but let's have a moment, Lily. There are many things that will pull your creative spirit just right out of you. And I have been doing this for decades, and I still can be hit by that truck. I would say the difference I have a lot of support. I have John, who's known me a lot of years, who reminds me to get back up and dust myself off and keep going. But if you have a bunch of paintings go badly, if you have a bunch of people be unkind, like I've had a couple things happen on YouTube that's made it really hard to YouTube lately.
Mm-hmm.
Really hard. And the way I get on is that I have so many beautiful people to show up for. But there'll just be times in your life where just a bunch of weird stuff happens, or you're tired, or you're working really hard. Burnout comes from working really hard and not making what you perceive as ground, right? Not making progress. And then if you add any comparison, I'll tell you in my life, and it's always this, comparison is the thief of joy. Brené Brown said that, and she's super right. It does not help. Unfortunately, when you're in art business, you have to do that somewhat called benchmarking. But there are days I get up and I do. I have very negative self-talk. I really struggle, and I have to use a lot of mindful practices to keep going. And right now I'm going through that. Having the painting go sideways, it was very frustrating. Trying to figure out what to do with my schedule for this algorithm is very frustrating. Many things can frustrate us. Here's what I'll say, is that I have regretted every time I gave up on myself in my life. I've regretted that 100% of the time. I have never regretted persevering through. As a kid, I was a national velvet kid, like in all seriousness. And that taught me that lesson. It's not the ride you finish with a dislocated kneecap. It is the one you don't. It makes me want to cry. But so I would say, be kind when you're in this state. Be kind to yourself. Do everything you can to be kind and forgiving to yourself. Fix the things that you can fix, and don't fight the battles you can't win. Mm-hmm. If it helps to know you're not alone. All right, I'm going to keep going.
All right.
Figuratively and literally. That probably should have been its own video, but
it was just a little. It was a little just amuse bouche in the middle of the lesson.
You never know who needs to hear that now.
You just never do. And you'll do more on that later.
I will. I'll talk more on that because it's a real thing that happens. I'm adding a highlight right here on the eye. An important little element. You don't think it's such a big deal, but it's a super big deal. I'm going to take a little bit of my purple and brown again. And it's important to have support. I'm very lucky I have support. And if you don't have supportive people in your life, you've got to try to find them, curate community. Here on YouTube, artists are so crazy, weird, competitive, but there are a lot of art leagues, and they don't necessarily suffer from those same issues. And it can be sometimes nice. I'm going to just grab a little magenta and come to the back of the eye and dust that a bit. That's fussiness, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It can be hard. I'm going to grab my yellow. It's got a little of the green in it, a little bit of the yellow. I'm coming to the front of the eye, creating that forward ball of the eye.
Yeah.
How many times can you repaint over a canvas if you gesso in between? You don't have to gesso in between, and I'm not aware of a limit. I suppose when it's more than 2 inches thick, it could get heavy. I have a backboard that we've repainted hundreds. I couldn't even, like, remember that lady who did that? I made 100 things of nail polish. I could weigh like 100 coats. That's like, believe you me, as artists, we have lots of options there.
Mm-hmm.
We're very well off. I'm going to take my white and blue here. Kind of add a little bit of that into there. Get into my yellow a little bit. Create that light value. He has a very light eye. Do you see how light his eye is?
I do.
His eye is so light. You've got to kind of capture that. A little lighter value. Another thing that you can do is you can come in with the dark value again. And come in with a little brown kind of over the green, and then maybe on the inside here, and then I'll come back with my black on the pupil.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it's a lot of eye fussiness.
Ooh.
There we go. But we're getting there. And then get a little white. Doing well there, isn't it? Come over the eye and add kind of a blue-gray reflection. And then we'll come back and add a very bright reflection on that. And that will be there. What is my backboard made of? Canvas? It was canvas.
Mm-hmm.
It was the one I used on my easel for when I had smaller than 16 by 20 surfaces that I had to put on there, and I just needed a neutral background. You can see it in like a bunch of videos. You can literally see how many coats are on it because you could just watch it through, I don't know, 3-4 years of videos. We do like 300 years, so.
You want to know what's funny? Is it isn't actually a canvas surface. It's burlap.
Okay, burlap. What was a burlap canvas?
It was a stretched burlap canvas.
Ah.
But it wasn't made of canvas. It was made of burlap, which I just thought was funny. I was like, oh, yeah.
Let's come here and we're going to add a bit. So this is the magenta, the burnt sienna, and a little dots, purple and white. You know how that go?
Mm-hmm.
Gets that nice kind of liver color there. And you want slightly darker at the front of the nose and here. There you go. Just a nice little nose that's shaping up, isn't it? And just make sure you've got a good kind of shadow under that. And then a lot of that we'll do with our blender. How are we doing? Good, good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we're going to add a little reflection to the eye. Keep my coffee, taking a little sippy sip, and go on to the next step.
Make a little step.
There's the eye. Not lovely. Sweet eye. So whatever else we have going on in this painting, we have this eye, don't we? And so we know we're doing okay and that we can do it.
This is pretty good.
It's okay. We're doing all right. We're bringing it a little bit.
I think this is a good place for a step.
I think it's a good place for a step. No, because I'm going on sunflower. So unless it's bothersome for the picture. Cindy says, I thought something was up with it because I knew you'd cover it with fresh paint but could still see the texture. Great to know. Yeah, it's thick. It's about, in some places, it's what, maybe a 1/4 inch thick now?
Oh,
you know?
Let's see.
It's had gesso, black paint, pro paint, craft paint, good gesso, bad gesso. It's had all the things. Let's finish out our flower, kind of bring this to some fruition, and let's change out our water. Our water's a little dirty right now. When you are free, John, I would love you to heat up my coffee, but when you are free.
Yeah.
I have rinsed out both my number 8 cat's tongue and my number 4 round. I'm going to start with my number 4 round. And I'm going to take my cad yellow over to my green brown mix. And I'm going to start to paint in some of what we're seeing on these little leaves over here. I can get a little green into it where I want it. Thank you, babe. I'll just keep painting with that. That's the brown, burnt sienna, cad yellow, and green. Just bringing this through here. You can do this. A little slightly brighter green on the shade side, but it's still in that kind of range. Just little fleurs off the back of it, as they have. Okay, so you can add a highlight to the back of the flower if you do a little white and green into your neutral green mix. I also like to bring this to the tip of some of the flowers. I think it gives them a little personality. That looks pretty good. Now I can come back with some very dark green. And just make sure we have some deep values a couple of places as well. And that gives it some richness.
Yeah.
Just some little personality. Rinse out. We're going to do a similar thing at the leaf. Our leaf, we're going to bring a little brown and green too, and then we are going to get a little yellow into it. Along this little edge and blend it back. I'm going to come on the edge of my brush and sort of blend that. I need a little white on there. And come along here and give a little white to the leaf. Very much in keeping with the flower up here. Come in and add a little dark color again and blend it back. So we're blending. But it has some color density. It has some color dynamics that are exciting and very worthwhile. And then we've got to do the other side. So again, green and brown and a little bit of cad yellow, but this time I want a little more phthalo. You can see it's just a slightly brighter inside of the leaf green, isn't it? Free hoot lessons are always fun.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good, them 3 hooters.
Well, actually, I kind of like this one better than the other one you did.
I do too, actually. I already like it better. Second time you paint something, you always see something more in it.
You're always like, I found this thing that I like.
I'm here and add a little brightness to that. And then what I'll do is I'll grab some green. And I'll very carefully come between the two leaves with the phthalo green. It's really a leaf bent up, sort of folded up like a taco. You know, when you do like a lettuce taco?
Yeah.
I'm just softly blending the green and the yellow. Getting some different dimensionality. There we go. Got quite a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call that a step, and then we'll do the flower.
I think we can do that. And
I'm breaking that up in the steps because there's a lot of green mixes here, and it'll be easier for you when you read the mini book to have those broken up by color. So that's why we're doing that. Well, I can, but I can do it when I get back. You can? All right. Say hi to everybody. I just want to see what you guys are up to. Sometimes I will check the chat. And then I see what Barbie Barnum, thank you, you saved me. I have a question for Cinnamon. If you could paint anything you wanted to paint, what would that be? Well, two answers to that. The first one is because you guys have so many different things that you want to paint. I often get to paint things that I want to paint. Generally, I like to paint horses, and I just dropped my thing again. So clumsy today. You know, it really changes. Do you find that it doesn't change for you too as well? Like, topically, I think that we're impacted by our life. So things that we want to paint when we're, you know, closed in versus things that we want to paint when we're outside, things we want to paint when we're looking for love. I think those things all change that. I really love to paint landscapes and animals and flowers, and kind of the subjects that we paint here is really fun for me to paint. I love painting girls from behind. Right now, there's a pair of black boots in fire I want to paint that I saw in a video, and I was like really inspired by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to paint it because the really high black boots stomping through fire. And that like kind of caught my mind. I'm like, boots and fire, but I can't come up with like a reason to do it. So I'm like, it might be a reel over on Instagram, since I don't know I don't know if it would be a lesson, but it would be a reel.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens to me. And if you follow me on Facebook, sometimes I will paint my digital doodles when I'm working on a design. Even though those are, I don't know, topically, I don't actually have words for what's going on. I'm gonna keep posting them. I think. I'm going to keep posting. Let's go into the flowers.
Hold on.
Step 7. Take us to heaven in the flowers. The flowers are going to come together real fun.
Stamped. We're stamped.
We're time stamped?
We can stamp it.
So I'm going to take a little of my kind of orange here and some of my brown. And I'm going to come around the outside, maybe of the inside of the flower, a little bit. And then I might add a little more brown to that. Kind of fill in the center. And then come in with some black. And shade that part of the seed pod. When you're painting sunflowers, the seed pod is as much of a painting in some ways, I think, as the petals.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of its nature to be so. I'm going to get a lot more of my yellow into that, and maybe even my white.
Everyone over on Facebook is very quietly watching.
Hi, Facebook. Hi, YouTube. we're trying to stream on both locations so you guys can find the streaming service that's performing for you on a given day. Hopefully that's helping.
Yeah.
I'm stamping up and down. I'm creating these lighter colors and I'm coming around and you can see I'm stamping up and down. It's like a little.
It seems that folks like to go between the two different ones depending on which streaming service is working better today.
Karen Salsi says, this painting looks stressful, but I want to do it as the sunflowers and border collie are two of my favorite things. So, Karen, if you wait about a week, there'll be a mini book that drops where everything I say is written out in instructions and there's step-by-step photos, and you can watch it with the video and use the traceable. And the goal of that is to make it less stressful and more successful.
Mm-hmm.
Less stressful, more successful is the goal. And it's free. So you can take advantage of it anytime. I'm going to pull a little white over here. I'm going to take some of my yellow into my white. And I'm going to make a bright yellow, but I need the white for opacity. And we're going to come in here and kind of start to give these petals some of their depth. Right? And it's the yellow and white. Now these are sort of interesting because they kind of come up here and they make a point and kind of comes here and they're little forward-facing petals. Just talking about it now.
The seed pod.
Yeah, the seed pod. Let's paint that back. It's already starting to be something, if you guys can see that. Lula Hall's like, hey, Facebook glitches on me. Yeah, see, that's why I like to do both. Some people, and really it's a country by country thing and region by region where you'll see one of the services perform better than the other. But hey, free art education. We're doing some schedule strangeness, so just watch the channel and look for upcoming lessons and be sure and bookmark them. Guys, do you want to meet me? If you would like to meet me and you can't, afford to come to the retreat, or you're busy, or you have work or life or whatever the reason is, it's all good. We have on both retreats 2 free meetup days, 2 free meet and greets on the Sundays at the end. So 1 in June and 1 in July at the Shawnee Inn in the Poconos between 1 and 3. And you just come by and say hi and get a picture and show me a painting, whatever you want to do, just come by. We have that going on. We're going to try to make sure that our retreats have those going on. So for people who, everybody has a life. I get it. I do. I genuinely get it. Everybody got a life. You see how the yellow is starting to make those petals become their own thing?
They really do. I enjoyed how this came together in the first one. So seeing it again is kind of cool.
I'm going to add some orange red to this. My brush is carrying too much paint. This is a number 4 round. Let me come back with some purple in a little bit. Some of that purple and red. I just want to get some of the orange kissed up on the flowers, which is the cad red and the yellow. This kind of lets it be a little bit of its individual flower. Reminds you of those sunflowers in Whole Foods, right? Or maybe you grew up with these sunflowers. I didn't, so the first time I saw them was in Whole Foods. That's a little weird, though. I recognize that is strange. Just so you know, I recognize that's strange.
Wow. Did you see what Amanda said?
No, I did not see what Amanda said.
because she said something pretty nice. She said
Oh,
she's
I'd
been
love to hear
painting with the
something
Sherpa
nice.
for 5 years, and the depth coming together is still magic to me. Painting is so amazing. Thank you, Cinnamon.
Thank you for everyone who's been here year after year and has chosen to hang in with me and chosen to support the channel. Thank you. Thank you very much. It helps me keep going in the hard weeks. And helps me keep going in the good weeks. You guys just help me keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So it is mutually appreciated, just so you know. And it means a lot when you guys tell me that. All right. There we go. That's starting to look good, isn't it?
It's looking fantastic.
Just a happy little sunflower. Now we can come back and do our little pad red purple trick again. It can help us kind of create some form and shape. It's really nice. That sort of gives it dimensionality.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally come in and put the pop of yellow on, it'll all come together. So we're just creating a little bit of shadow and differential between the leaves. I also think it's a good idea to come through and make sure that there's a nice solid color around the seed pod. A little bit in the center there.
Mm-hmm.
Give it some sun. Rinse out thoroughly. You don't want any purple on the next bit. We'll pull out some just cad yellow. I'm going to get just the smidgiest of cad right into it. The reason I'm not going to use pure cad is this isn't a pure yellow sunflower. It's a little bit orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our leaves should reflect that. I'm coming through, and I'm not doing every leaf right now. I'm going to look and see how a few leaves look and if the differential between the leaves isn't kind of nice. It may take all leaves. But it doesn't hurt for me to go through like leaf at a time
Mm-hmm.
and see how it looks. I like that little grouping of flowers right there. And see how this has just gotten brighter? This could have been its own sunflower painting.
Really could have been. It's super.
I have a lot of paintings on sunflowers, but I think this is a different way than I think I've painted a sunflower before. I do think I'm getting into the sunflower from a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe in a little more like painting it as a floral. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? It's just glowing, isn't it? Isn't it just glowing?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, Bella CA, how do you get to the mini book? So if we can record some of the show ahead and then we do the live where we go through and answer questions of the show. If we're doing it live right now, it takes about a week to get them. You go to the artsherpa.com, and two ways you can get to them. Through the video page, if it's done, it will be on the video page.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you go to the file section of the website. So if you get in your dashboard, it'll be like traceables and you see files, you can go to files. If my moderators could drop a link to the mini books direct to that file section here. And here's what I'll do, Bella, is I'll pin that in a comment. When I pin this timestamps, I will add to the timestamps that link direct to where all the mini books are. There's several now because we started them in 2021. We just thought 2020 was we were going to just start this free thing then. So that's what we're doing.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. I like the flower.
A thing at a time.
A thing at a time. Let's call that a step and take a picture.
I think we
and
can do
paint
that.
a dog. I think we need to paint a dog. About 3 layers in the fur. You can do that. There's about 3 layers in my experience fur. I have a bunch of fur videos if you want to know how to paint different types of fur. I'm going to continue to make fur tip videos. I just want to go through. We did that how to paint red without red, and you guys were like, can we do blue without blue and yellow without yellow? And I'm like, yeah, that's super doable. So we're going to continue those on, and I'll show you some cool magic color mixes that you might not know. You know them if you paint with me, but you might not have thought, oh, this is what I know. And so we're going to do some of those, and then I'm probably going to do some more fur ones. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start around the nose, and I'm going to start with my number 12 round blender. I just like it because it's soft, and it lets me get into this part of the nose. So I'm going to get it a little bit wet. I'm going to get clean water, though. Clean water. So this is the clean water. I don't want it too wet. I just want it a little bit wet. Then get into the nose color. I'm going to make sure that I've dusted that back a bit. If I need to control it, I can pinch it.
Hold a second here.
So you see that? When I need to control a brush that's maybe too fluffy, but I need its style of bristles.
Do that again. Yeah, do that again. Let me see that. There we go. Now I can see that.
Or you need to know how do I control that? That's how you would control that. Isn't that nice? Getting that white in. Soft thing in. And every once in a while I get it wet and I wipe it out. Great brush. I highly recommend it. And you can see it gives us that nice kind of rosy area to the nose. I wiped out with my towel and I'm just blending here. What you're doing, you're just blending. Just blending. Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool tool. Princeton number 12 round blender. Very cool tool. All right. Now, he's got the front white. So it's going to be my ultramarine and my white here, just a little bit cool. Just the beginnings of that. It's not the brightest of the color that we will definitely have there, but it is part of the color that we will. So it's good to know where it is. I'm going to grab my 12, come under here and do some of the fur. This is Ready Player Fur 1. So it's white, guys, but it's not white white. If that makes sense to you.
It does.
And the reason we do that is because it's in a little bit in shadow, and we're going to want to be able to come back and create some dimensionality and personality to it. Every once in a while I get my brush wet so that it's, you know, nice. Oh, hi, Twix. You don't pick me up when you're at the table. Make it a little harder to do. Make sure that that's here. So we're just grabbing a little bit of that fur there. Looks real good. I can always come in with my number 4 round where I want to have precision. Even add a little bit of fraying for the fur. Just starting to talk about it. And come on the top with just white. And just brush that down. So we're adding just some pure white right there to give that a little pop. Now that got a little over my nose more than I wanted. And if it ever does, you can just come back as long as what's underneath is dry and tip that back. See how we did?
Mm-hmm.
You can be very precision where you need to.
Catherine says, thank you so much for staying positive on all this stuff.
Oh gosh, you guys, thank you for helping me stay there. Thank you for helping me stay. You guys are you're super inspiring to me. There we go. Look at that. Looking beautiful, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Just a pretty boy. He's a pretty boy. The brown is a Docks Purple, Queen Magenta, and Burnt Sienna. We're just getting a nice value going on here, as you do. A little purple. You can see that this does a beautiful job of giving us some softness, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So some good coverage down there. We're getting some good coverage around here. Getting the brown up here. Queen Magenta, Dock Purple. Now, this will end up being quite light. And if I need to get it wet and kind of blend out, I will. Into the white.
Mm-hmm.
I need to rinse out, I will. And then I dry off, and then I just gotta come here and just make sure we get a nice start there. You can always come back into your white.
Oh, that nose looks so soft.
Right. And when that's the thing, puppies are soft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Puppies are very soft. Adding a lighter value here. We're getting there.
It really is. It's looking so good.
It's looking good. Add a little white for around the eye.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to come in with a precision brush between the white stripe there, but up here it's not as big a deal. Back up into my purple mixture, which is my brown and Quinn, and what's great is we have brushes for fur, we have fans, we have those things. It's much lighter at the back over here.
Mm-hmm.
Come up there and add a little bit of lightness. And even this brush can start to imply the fur a bit on the back of the head where there's a softer edge.
This really is a really pretty painting.
It's going to be very nice. Okay. So I'm going to come here and make sure that I've got a little bit of brown coming back off the ear. Kind of pulling back. And I'm also going to make sure that I have a bit of brown coming back underneath the ear. And I'm going to brush my brush the direction of the fur, so where it's kind of in a swirl, I'm going to make this go in a swirl.
Mm-hmm.
And just brush this back. Showing those markings in that way that they can be soft. All right, we're almost there. I think I'm going to get just a little bit of black and brown going for right here, and I'm going to come under the ear with that. Now just a little bit of shading there. And there's a little highlight to the fold of the ear. So these things now are sort of blocked in, and we know where they are, and we have the softness to begin to talk about them as fur. And we have some values and some shading. We're going to call this a step. I guess I'm going to sip what's left in my coffee. And then we'll come in and hit the next layer of the fur. That'd be amazing. So in fur, what I have found to get it where I'd like it to go, especially in longer fur, is like 3 steps minimum. More if you have the time. You really, really want to invest in the fur. I like us to invest in the eye and the flower early, so we feel really good about the painting and we love our results and we're super excited about it. But where you're going to want to put in some time and energies into the fur, and much like water, you have to find the flow. Fur has a directionality. The longer it is, the more directionality that it has, and you want to follow those directions for things to feel like they're realistic. If it's short, then you need to represent the short hairs. If it's long, you're going to want to represent the long hairs. You're going to really want to be aware of. Yes. Oh, okay. Cool. I got to.
You know what you have not done yet? I have to do this. I have to go make you smaller, and then tell them what step it is.
Woohoo!
We have a 9 step.
So I have a bunch of brushes that are great for fur. I have combs. Grass combs are amazing. Grainers are amazing. I have them across so many brands. Here's one, Filbert grass comb. Filbert grass comb. If you're doing fur or you're doing grass, a grainer or grass comb is helpful. There is also brushes like this. They can be a little harder to keep it from making too many lines. It really depends on the technique that you're doing. You just find what gives you the technique that you're looking for. It gives you the result that you're looking for. Is all it is. So this is a grass comb. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet. And we get into the kind of purple. This is our mix up here, but we're adding a little bit of a lighter color to it. And we're going to start to show the short hair. That is peeking out with shadows underneath. You see that happening? You can get yellow into this mix, believe it or not, if you want to get it to be light. Some of the fur has a bit of that to it. The lavender cast in it is almost really actually probably an illusion. So I'm just doing little chunking strokes. You can see those. It'll be a little darker in areas. All right. So again, filbert grass comb. That's a silver brush. Here's another silver brush grass comb. Here's a Princeton Velvet Touch grainer that will work really well. Simply Simmons has a bunch of these. You can get these in packs online. I got that group on Amazon. And the Artist Loft ones come from Michaels. The thing that to be aware of is for some reason the handle's sticky, and a lot of people don't like that, but they do make a lot of these specialty brushes at an economy cost. And then here I also have, I think this is a Royal and Langnickel version of something. And guys, let me see that. Royal, I'm showing you guys the wrong way. So here is the Royal and Langnickel. I forget that John's not here. Royal and Langnickel. Here is the silver brush version. Here's, some Michaels. Here's a Princeton. The Artist Loft ones, they do grainers or combs. They're just a little hard to, they're a little sticky. And they don't have to be expensive, by the way. That is not a requirement of that brush. That brush can be right around $3. So don't feel like it's got to be so pricey. And also, I'm going to show you guys how to make these. They're pretty makeable. And if you thought about it for even a half second, you'd be like, oh, yeah. Because if you have hair scissors, you can go into any filbert and just very carefully piece out and make the brush irregular. The reason that, a lot of brush makers don't want you to do that is it voids the warranty. But if you have filberts that you like and you can convert some of them into grass combs, why not? See how we're creating that patching in the fur? And this is okay. This can have a little bit of that into the gray. And you can even weirdly get some purple back into it. It's so wild what it'll do. Back here I find that's a little bit shorter. Just grabbed a little bit of that other color to a little bit of my purple and red and a little bit of brown to create some darker versions of the chunking down here. And that's what we're doing, is just painting the little chunks. To get a good effect off of the comb, and I may switch to even the Princeton version of this, the grainer. They're real similar though. If you want to see the difference, I'll switch over to the grainer real fast. It's maybe a little more pieced out. Let's see how that gives you a very nice kind of short facing you texture on that fur, doesn't it? Leslie says she loves the sunflower in the eye. Shannon says, I wish we had a Michaels, only Ben Franklin and very limited and expensive for certain things. I buy canvases at Ross. Ross has art supplies, guys. And actually, I know that Silver Brush has a contract with Ross, so sometimes you will see stuff there. I'm sure at some point you will see my brushes there on discount, so watch for that. You never know. I don't know anything. I'm just guessing. Just assuming. I'm making a little lighter blue. I'm coming into the white and a little lighter blue. I'm flicking here. Again, this is just the grainer. Sometimes it's nice to bit of that there, a little longer hair there. Down along the edge. I'm so grateful he's making me coffee. He makes such a good cup of coffee. You guys have no idea. My husband makes a really good cup of coffee. So I'm going to try to make the switch to matcha soon. That may be the end of the channel. Watch that be the end of us. Matcha. The end of the Art Sherpa. Perfect as usual. I'm just coming here and we're doing a little curve to the stroke. Do you guys notice the curve to the stroke? Patty, thank you. You give so much. Thank you, Patty. I'm going to allocate that to Twix treats from Patty. There we go. You see, we're just picking up little bits of highlights and everything. It's not pure white. And the grainer is giving us those strokes that help things feel like fur, doesn't it? Sometimes you can add a little bit of a highlight on here and talk a bit about the dimensionality. I would love to go to Toronto too. I know a lot of people are in lockdown and couldn't come to the retreats this summer. We are going to do more of them, and we're going to try to do it where it will be easier for people in different areas. Like I'd like to hit Australia. I'd like to go over to Europe. I'd like to make sure we were closer and more available to Canada to come visit. You know, it's fun, and I think I would enjoy that. I'm adding a little bit of a highlight right here. And every once in a while, you can highlight some of the fur that's coming through here. There we're doing. Just creating a nice little dimensionality, right? Little dimensionality. Make sure that we're pulling some fur over the little bit over the white markings. It's important, I think. I think it's also important to add some highlights to this fur right here.
Did you see Lily's question?
I don't know if I did. Ask me Liz's question.
What makes a grass comb a grass comb? It looks like a filbert.
It is, so a filbert has an even interlocked run of bristles that are sweeped out in a curve. A grass comb has those, but they have been pieced out so that they're different lengths, and it creates this sort of grainy hair effect, which is why I'm always like, you can make your own. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, well, can you come here? Can you come here? Okay, first of all, if you're going to say Wales and Hawaii, yeah, I like to go to both so much. Those both sound awesome, don't they?
Oh my gosh. There was a dude up in Cape Cod who got eaten by a whale. Oh,
did you guys see the guy get eaten by the whale?
That was so cool. A humpback whale was coming up.
Accidentally ate him.
Accidentally.
And they spit him back up. So just so you know, there's a happy ending to the story.
Yeah.
It did kind of mess him up a little bit.
He was just bruised a little bit.
Whales are strong.
It's very big fish.
And it was surprised. Both the whale and the diver were surprised by the experience.
Apparently, in nature, this happens occasionally where they come up and they'll get a porpoise.
Because they're a little blind in front of themselves.
Right, because they're coming straight up from the ocean to get a big gulp full of fish that's swirling up. And so in this, sometimes there are other bigger fish swimming through there that accidentally, and they're like, I don't want to eat you, and they spit them out. And so it's very good. It's a YouTube. You should go watch it. The guy's like, I was going to be eaten, and I had to say goodbye because I was in the belly of the whale. And then it spit me out.
I'm adding little bits of short highlights just to talk about the short fur that's here.
I'm sorry, just
no.
That was one of those things that
John
just totally.
Was like, I was like having a rough night, and John was like, "Did you see the guy who was eaten by the whale?" I'm like, "Does it have a happy ending?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "I need to see it." Some things I don't want to know. If it doesn't have a happy ending for the animal or the person, I don't really want to know the story. But if it has a happy ending for both, then I'm kind of happy to know about it. So you see how we're just creating that rough towards us texture that's right there. Humpbacks can't swallow pelicans. I mean, like, I think it's not like they're like, pelican. I think they're like, oh no, pelican.
Yeah.
Me trying the food box my mom sent me.
They have a very large mouth, but apparently they got like little stuff inside there, like teeth, gill things that are designed to help keep.
I'm going to take a little bit of my brown and purple and black together, and I'm going to come right here, sort of underneath here. I'm still on this. This one is the grainer, filbert grainer. Grass comb, filbert grainer, same thing. You could use a fan brush. And I'm going to just make sure that I've got the beginnings of that nice shading under the little jowlies, right? Probably the rest of this I will do with this. These are, get one. You don't have to have a bunch. Around a 1/2 inch. This is a 3/8. This is a 1/2 inch. I really like a 1/2 inch because it does a lot more. It's bigger work, but just get one and try it, and then you'll be like, it's worth it. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm putting in some shadows to build up on. Because there's these shadows in the fur, right? I can even come here and start to do the piecing between, knowing that there's going to be these shadows here. And then if I want to come into this range, again, I'm just here. Just a little bit of work. Pulling it out. Rinse out every once in a while will help. I'm going to mist everything hard this time because I need it to be a little bit wetter for me to go. And I'm going to sip my coffee. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, I think.
Let's call this a step.
Yeah.
Not because we're not doing the same thing through the whole thing, but because it's so long and arduous, and that way there isn't so much written up in one section, and you guys have a little break. And also sometimes I like to do a step as a guesstimate of when you should be breaking at home, to stand up, to stretch, to rest, to give yourself a break. Because I kind of paint at speed, but there is no set speed to painting. There's no like, this, you must paint fast. You must do this way, or you will not, I don't know, be an artist. People say crazy stuff all the time about art. All the time I hear somebody say something super definitive about art, and I'm just like, I want to react to that. But I'm not going to because I don't have a reaction channel. I have an art education channel, but sometimes I want to have a reaction channel. Sometimes I'd like to be a little salty, like the salty crafter, be like the salty painter and salt out. But then I think, am I really? I don't think that I'm tough enough to be in that fires of salt.
We're in step 10.
Shannon says, I try to post pics on Facebook for you guys. We get to swim with the turtles, but never touch if it's a major crime. It should be a crime to touch things. Don't touch the manatees. Don't touch leave the wild animals alone, is my feeling. All right, I'm going to add a little white back into our fur mix, and we're going to continue to come here and paint some little fur coming out of the ears, right? little bit of light right there. You can kind of see that happening. When I want to bring a little chunk out, you see I can just take it on the edge and curl it out. It's a very versatile tool.
Hmm.
Now, on these little bits of hair, they're a little bit darker at the root, and then they tend to be a little bit more light at the tip, so that's something to think about. I'm just bringing that color down through there. Fun for me. Fun for you. Building up the hair. Isn't it weird how he's becoming a brown dog? For a lot of purple.
Just coming together.
It just comes together. It does. It just comes together, guys. Very light through here because we want the overall value to stay dark.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful in that when you're coming there. Because you're trying to make sure that it seems dark. And then when I'm going to add a lot more white right here, I'm going to come over the lip in very short strokes. And then kind of come around a little longer around the mouth. So that's how I get that upper lip to the mouth. See how I did?
Yeah.
Now here, the brush stroke should be lighter and shorter. Because the hair is shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that it's lighter and shorter.
Now, do all of your paintings give you shoulder issues?
No. 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 Shoulder issues for me come from excessive use, prolonged use, and lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of sleep, though, is usually a component of it for me. I find that if I'm not getting the sleep that I need, then my body doesn't do the healing that it has to. That's me. I'm not saying that's everybody. I am not a doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice. But see how we're creating that like shorter little hair area around the face?
Yes.
I'm going to rinse out a bit. What's the name of the fancy fur brush again? So you'll find them called a filbert grass comb or a filbert grainer. They're going to be called a filbert grass comb or filbert grainer. Here I have a silver brush limited version of that. I have a Princeton limited version of that. Artist Loft, I don't have one of theirs makes them, and I know Simply Simmons makes them. They can be called combs or grainer. They can come in any shape too. You can have them in brights and everything. If you're doing a lot of grass, you're doing a lot of nature, you're doing a lot of ocean, you're doing a lot of any of that, it's a nice investment. Come here along the white marking. See how we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Defining that. Look at that lovely little.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of my paint chips coming off. They do. On the cheaper brushes, the paint comes off. And it's not supposed to come off on the more expensive brushes, so, you know, be aware. If it is, that's the brush's fault. But on inexpensive brushes, that's one of the places that they save money.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to kind of expect. Just make sure that there's that nice blushing there because they have it.
Yeah.
Isn't this nice and relaxing? He's a relaxing paint, isn't he, Yo?
It really is.
He's just a lovely little paint. I can get a little purple. I can get a little black. Kind of a little bit of a interesting shadow color. And come here and make sure that this is pieced well for what it is. That looks good. I'm just making sure we can really see those shadows as we're defining those objects in that space. Now, sometimes it is possible for me to take a little of my yellow and purple together. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And create kind of this like interesting neutralized putty color, but it's still in the coat range of our little furry friend here. Go figure. And when I need a little more brown into it, I can get a little more brown. Pull a little fur down into the ear. See how I just did?
Mm-hmm.
And get a little yellow and the white into the top, and then on the top of his ear, make sure that that's quite light. There we go, top of his ear, right? Look at that, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got this ear sort of shaped out. Who knew we would have that?
I'm gonna come over here to the other
I'm going to come around his eye a bit. Back into the little purple. And around here, maybe like little shorter strokes. Kind of talk about fur that's facing us a little more. How we can change the direction of that. We're actually kind of winding up pretty fast. You don't have that
really
much more
nice.
to do. Isn't he gorgeous?
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Bowman says, I find I have to break down steps into multiple painting sessions. Yeah, painting requires stamina. Painting is physically and mentally exhausting. It's important to remember with kids, but it's also important to remember if you're a new artist, is that it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it is. And it's your brain is doing a lot. You're physically doing more than you think. Sometimes you're doing a lot of repetitive movements. And so, yeah, it's great for healing and brain injury and stroke and well-being and imagination and mood balancing. It does all the things that we think it does, but it also, everything with moderation, right? So the steps do give you a good guidance to say, this is a good time to stretch and take a break. You don't have a YouTube channel, right? Where you have to like, worry about all other YouTube and, worry about the algorithm. I'm just creating a little white there, little bit along that fur. That's not something that you have to be concerned with. So you can be concerned with yourself first. And you should. You should be putting yourself first in your painting experience. There we go. That's a nice little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Little marking there. Just a tiny amount left on him. I'm gonna sip my coffee that you made me.
Are you?
How you guys doing? Make sure, check your posture, check your awareness. It'd be fun to also have like little bees or butterflies or dragonflies flying up in the air too on this one.
You could just
totally
add
do
those,
that.
couldn't you?
But the thing about just having the two of them, especially if you're doing a pet portrait, is it makes the dog the focus of the painting.
Mm-hmm. I like how soft that little mouth looks.
Yeah, very much like that. That makes the dog feel very, very young, adding a little bit of highlight to the fur. Edges of fur sometimes has highlight. Come right back up into your brown. Paying attention to the flow of the fur, right?
Mm.
And you have to do that. So I just came around the eye and paid attention to the flow of the fur and set that eye in his face.
Yeah.
That's important. You can always be like, I think that there's a little shadow here, and exaggerate those shadows. Because that certainly does exist. And then things get definitely lighter up here at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to pay attention to that. When we're painting directionality, when we're thinking about how to talk about it,
The brush directionality really matters here at these last stages.
it does so much.
Makes a big difference too.
It does. It does. It brings him into focus. Right here, very soft and light. The edges of the hairs are very soft and light. I've got to paint that into the fur for her to look, or him to look, as light and charming as they are.
Mm-hmm.
I can do a little yellow and purple. Also to get that grayed color. That's so light and on this puppy. Get my brush a little bit wet, still on that one brush.
That seems to be just working there, huh?
Yeah, it just does this little thing. There we go. Get that little rise over the brow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to come in there with my detail brush to finish off the eye, but little flowing S strokes up here at the top. I'm not painting out everything that was at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't necessary. ear does some interesting little stuff with the hair, so we just got to pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm loving this.
Turned out really cool.
Lighter, lighter, lighter. Now very, very, very light right here. Because there's that weird sort of hair there.
Yeah.
You've got to find and get the softness to the color for the coat to look correct. We're really there.
That coat looks so nice.
Right. And it's such a hard coat color unless you've seen it done.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I like to do some of these more challenging things because there might not be other alternate sources of information out there at the time for it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So that's sometimes what kind of informs my little decisions about where I'm painting what when. This is how we're getting there. I know you guys love it.
I love it. It's looking pretty phenomenal.
A little longer, slightly darker hair on
Yeah.
here. Playing with those values, paying attention to them. There we go. Now I want to make sure that my top of the eye is a little bit not finished out. So I'm going to take a little of this, which is my, light fur color.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small touch. I'm going to come to the inside corner eye. Make sure that that's defined there.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, guess what?
What's that?
I think we got there.
You think so?
Does she look? She looks good to me.
I think it looks phenomenal.
She looks great to me. Or he, either one is fine. It's all good. I hope yours looks good to you. Remember, it is it can be called a grass comb or a filbert grainer or a filbert comb. I've got a Princeton 3/8 here. They call theirs a filbert grainer, and it's in the Velvet Touch line. I've got a crystal filbert grass comb by Silver Brush 1/2 inch, and it's in the crystal line, which is very economical. I think sometimes you even see those at Ross. And then I've got a ruby satin filbert grass comb here. So, and then remember, I also found them in the Simply Simmons line.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, here's one. Here's a comb in the Simply Simmons line, and it's just a very tiny filbert. But I have a bunch of sizes and angles and different shapes of them. So that is what we have. So you guys can find this again. And come here and kind of sign in the corner over here. I'm sorry we did not have the big one today, but I'm glad we didn't cancel the show.
Yeah, me too. This was really nice. Quite fun to do.
Quite fun to do. Quite enjoyable to do. Look at that go. That is wonderful. All right. I really hope that you enjoy your puppy, your lavender border collie. We will come back. There will be more dogs in the future, so be sure and hit the subscribe button. Tell me what kind of dogs you're interested in painting. Really, it's like the consensus. Like I know we're gonna do a pit. I know there's certain types of dogs that we're gonna be painting because a lot of requests. We've done a black lab already. This is our lavender border collie, and we will continue on the journey. So tell me what kind of dog you want to paint. So you get the best chance of painting it, right?
Yeah. And
more importantly, be good to yourselves, be good to your furry studio companions, and I want to see both of you and an easel really soon. Bye-bye.